we've actually got an elder scheduled for tomorrow. She is about 95. Yeah. So you're talking about somebody that grew up their first 10 years of life during the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. Those are wealth of knowledge that truthfully we have no idea about except for through them. And getting to hear those different perspectives. There are so many different stories that I've gotten to hear throughout the years, which is truly a blessing for me. Some of them that stand out, one was a preacher for her church over in the reservation, and she actually told us about performing an exorcism one time. Fascinating whenever she got to describe that. It also happened to be a stormy day, and the door flung open right whenever she was describing it, so that will always be impactful for me. One was a World War II veteran. While he wasn't at Normandy Beach whenever the invasion was taking place, he actually was there 3 days later. And logistically, it's not like they had time to clean up Normandy Beach within 3 days. And so the sights that he saw were just incredibly horrific. And it was one of those things that as he would tell this story, he would actually start to shake because he would start to relive it, but then he would tell a joke to bring himself back down. Just to see that life moment of how he had to cope with what he was burdened with throughout all of life. I think about those types of stories. I think about some that would talk about their parents and how they would grow vegetables and create their own Three Sisters gardens. I think about those stories that happened over at Wheelock. One of the very first projects that we did almost 10 years ago recording was dealing with Wheelock alumni. And so they would actually tell about their stories at that boarding school and how that was impactful for them. I remember one of them talking about having two different shoes on whenever they were basically picked up and taken to Wheelock. And so they just had two different shoes on. That was just a memory they had. I mean, it's fascinating getting to hear all of these little stories. In fact, our tribal chaplain right now, Olin Williams, he will talk about whenever he was growing up, how much he related to Martin Luther King Jr., because, I mean, here he is talking about their plight, but at the same time, they're feeling very much similar feelings whenever it comes to this. And so we have probably close to 85 stories captured at this point in time. We're hoping that number is going to just explode whenever we have our facility here and try and connect. But it's not just elders. We tend to say elder story recording, but it's Choctaw stories too. In fact, I would love to record some younger Choctaws that are maybe in their 20s or their 30s. And then the next generation that takes over for us, record those same individuals whenever they're in their 60s and their 70s to see how life has changed for them. That would be my goal, is just to constantly have that oral history that Choctaw Nation has always done from the beginning of our history, to pass it down and connect it. But for future generations, instead of it being something that is passed down, they're getting to hear it from the people that experienced it. That's the goal that we have. And whenever we first started out the storytelling, it was just an audio-based project. It's actually video at this point in time because we love getting to see the emotions and the connections that people have to these stories. I remember whenever she was singing about one of her hymns, and the hymn itself is translated to "Give me Christ, so else I'll die." And it's one of those that is a very strong, beautiful hymn that the Choctaw Nation has. At the same time, you could feel the emotion that she was connected to it because that was her roots. That's how it was passed on to her. And her tears just flowed as she sang out this song because it connected her to her ancestors, those that gave so much to let us have what we have today. That's what the Elder Storytelling Project truly does for us, is that we get to carry on those pieces, and not only do we get to have it, but it can be expanded to the world so that they can see, this is the Choctaw Nation, this is how we have been, this is who we are, and this is the gift that God has given us to share. I absolutely love the Elder Storytelling Project, and it's one of those that as soon as that sound room is built, we're going to make it go crazy, because what better place to record stories than someone that might go through, get to see all these different pieces in the permanent exhibit, and get to then come back and talk about what their Choctaw story is. And a Choctaw story, it's one of those things that we ask on a scholarship application too, is what is your Choctaw story? It doesn't have to be a book report about the World War I code talkers. It doesn't have to be about one of the previous chiefs. I mean, it's great if you know all that information, but your Choctaw story is your story. You know, how have you contributed to this world? What has your Choctaw spirit done to make an impact? And that's what we want to know. That's the Choctaw journey today. And so that's what we try and encourage throughout not only our elders, but the younger individuals, is how do you take that Choctaw spirit and share it? How do you love on your neighbors through that spirit that's been passed on to you? That's what we really try and encourage.